Hey, what's up you guys? It's Parker again from Stock and Barrel. Whit's here too. Hi. I wanted to show you a couple of quick tips for burnishing leather edges. There are so many different ways to burnish an edge, different products you can use, different techniques. I'm just going to show you the things that we use that work really well for us. One thing with burnishing is that in the end, the longer you work on it, the better it's going to look. I want to show you the way that we do it where it's quick and efficient, but it also gives us a really nice finished product. So here's how we do it. Okay, so depending on the product, we have a few different techniques. You have, over here we have some Italian leather edge paint, and it's just the neutral color, which basically means it goes on clear. And I'll show you when and why we would use that. We have a hand burnisher. Everyone should have one of those in their toolbox. And then this is a Dremel with a Coco Bolo burnishing wheel attached to it. And then I always have a sponge with some saddle soap. This is my product of choice. Also gum tragacanth is a good option. And then a little block of beeswax. We just use 100% natural beeswax, but you can, if you want, use paraffin household wax and mix it with beeswax, and that does a pretty good job too. In some applications, we actually come over here and use our Cobra MP burnisher as well. This was a super nice addition to our shop because we can get things done a lot faster. So I've cut a couple of 8-ounce pieces of natural veg tan here just to walk through a couple steps, and I'll show you how we do things here. Okay, so one of the things that we struggle with when we're working with veg tan leather is keeping it clean, because if you were to use saddle soap and a sponge and you get a little bit messy on the edges, it can leave some water stains. And it's really important when you're selling a natural veg tan product untreated to just let it look as clean as possible. And so one treatment that we like to do, this is super fast and really professional looking, is the leather edge paint. You can get it at Tandy, and this is the neutral color. And then we just have you can apply it however you want. You can use a dauber. We use this pen tool, and I really like this tool. But before you do that, you should always, doesn't matter how you burnish an edge, you should always use a beveler on your edges first, because the corners will mushroom out if you don't. So I'm just gonna take the beveler and just get a nice rounded edge. I don't always bevel the tips because you use a die to punch it and it gives it kind of a nice rounded edge anyway. So I've got the sides beveled, and I'm also going to bevel the back side too. That way you have a completely round edge and there aren't any corners that can get banged up. Okay, so now that you have your nice rounded edges, you got to do something to keep it from getting fuzzy, because especially over time the little fibers will pop up more and more. And that's the reason I really love this neutral edge paint, because it seems like no matter what I do to an edge, this stuff keeps it down really well and keeps it nice looking for a long time. I just dip that little rolling tip right into the paint, and I first just roll a nice flat edge right on top. Don't attempt yet to go around the corners, because you just want a full coat right on top. And then I very carefully come around the edge. If you do too much, then it'll get onto the surface of the leather, and you don't want that. It'll just look janky. So this will make it look really professional and clean. And there you have it. That's just a really clean edge. I didn't get any on the top of the leather, which is really hard to do when you're using other burnishing techniques. And so we usually do this on our smaller, especially the thinner leather accessories that we have, when I don't want to do a full burnishing treatment, and especially on all of our natural veg tan products, I use that. And you can do another coat, but it'll dry quite a bit lighter than it even looks now. It almost doesn't even look like you burnished it, except that it'll be nice and smooth. So that's a really good way to get a clean edge on your product. Okay, and then this next way that I'm going to show you is a much more thorough burnishing strategy, and this is what we do on most of our belts, like you can see here. So with that first technique, you're not actually laying the fibers down. You're not doing any kind of slicking. All you're doing is applying the paint. So it has its pros and cons, because from what I've noticed, it lasts a long time and the fibers won't pull up. But if you want a really smooth, glassy edge, then you got to put a little bit more elbow grease into it. So I'll show you how that goes. For this next step, you want to think of it as a 3-step process. I always like to start with water. So water is what really molds the leather and makes it like clay, and it'll make those fibers lay down really smooth in the first step. Then you use whatever slicker that you decide to use in between each step. So you got water, and then you're going to slick it, and then you're going to come over here and apply a little bit of saddle soap, and then slick it again. And then you're going to apply some beeswax and then slick it again. And if you really want to go the extra mile, I usually like to do the saddle soap again because it puts more of a glossy finish at the end as opposed to the waxy finish. So those are kind of the 3 steps. You can see why we can't do this with all of our products in a production setting, but this is what gets you a really, really nice edge. So there's our painted edge right there. Looks pretty good. We'll do this edge with the burnishing technique. Okay, so we get a little bit of water, and again, you want to try really hard not to get it onto the top part, because if you do, it'll leave water stains, and if you do, then if you get the water stains, I would suggest just putting a whole layer of just kind of a coat of water over the leather so that it at least dries evenly. So we got the water there. Now I'm going to take my Dremel tool, but you can also use one of these, which are really cheap, like $4 or $5 at Tandy. That works too. You just have to work twice as hard. I'm going to show you with the Dremel tool. Make sure that you're always burnishing in the same direction. That'll get you a much better result. Okay, so now that we got the water down, we're going to move over to the saddle soap. So just give it a little spritz and apply it. This is the one where I usually, maybe I need a better sponge, but this is the one that's hard not to get onto the actual leather. Now I'll burnish it again, or slick it again. And again, the more that you do this in each step, the better it's going to look. So it's just a matter of how much time you have and how willing you are. But even just that amount of time will give you a really professional look, and you can get through it pretty quick. So, and then this is just kind of my little preference. I like to heat up my wax just a little bit, because the softer the wax is, the more it's going to fall into the cracks of the leather and fill it up. That's kind of the job of the wax. It gives like a really nice uniform edge, especially when you have 2 pieces of leather coming together. In this case, it's just the one layer. And the burnisher should heat the wax up too as it goes on. So now we got the waxed edge. It's starting to look really nice. And but if you feel it, it's almost sticky from the wax. So that's why I like to just throw one more coat of the saddle soap. And there it is. Again, you can kind of see the contrast. That's why I don't always love to do the full burnishing method on veg tan. I was lucky enough to keep it clean, but it leaves a really dark line, and I don't always love that stark contrast against the natural veg. So that's why a lot of the times, especially on our smaller products, I'll just use the edge paint, which looks really good. But again, if you have the time and you want to put some elbow grease into it, give it the full burnishing method. It'll always come out better in the end. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you could do that whole burnishing technique and then add the edge paint on top of that, and that would probably seal it up for the rest of its life. I'm having a hard time focusing on this. Hopefully you can see the edges nice enough to see the contrast and see the difference between the two. So I hope that gives you some ideas of what you can do in your process. Everyone does it a little differently. But just try a few things out. That's what works really well for us. If you have any questions about burnishing, please leave them in the comments or send me an email. I'd be happy to talk about it. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.